going on, guys? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, we're going to be going over 5 non-quarterbacks that the Vikings could take at 11th overall in the 2024 NFL Draft. Understand there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of mirrors, there's a lot of rumors around the Vikings possibly taking a quarterback at 11th overall. However, I do want to make this point. I think it is likely that the Vikings say, you know what, we don't love any of the quarterbacks that we could get at 11th overall. Let's just bring back Kirk on a 1 to 2 year deal and go all in on this core that we have, and maybe adds a little extra juice to either the defensive side of football or offensive side of football, but most likely defensive with a first-round pick. So I got 5 non-quarterbacks that I think the Vikings could seriously consider taking at 11th overall. But right before I hopped in the studio today, guys, I actually see them outside the studio right now. Our bosses, they actually challenged me and Vikings fans to a little like goal, and they said no way Vikings fans can get 250 likes on today's video. So if you guys want to help me out and help me avoid an awkward meeting with my bosses probably tomorrow as they're still staring at me, like today's video, drop a like, trying to hit 250 likes. Hey, let's double that. Let's get up to 500. So if you guys want to help me out, make my day, make my Monday a whole lot better, like today's video. But number one for me is my number one draft target for the Vikings. That's a non-quarterback, has to be Dallas Turner. And I do want to say this. This list is not including left tackle or tackles, wide receivers, or tight ends. So guys like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu are not going to be on this list. I kept it mainly defensive guys because I think that's what the Vikings have on their big board is a lot of defensive guys. But speaking about Dallas Turner, he's 6'4", 245 or 402 pounds, coming from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Last year, 53 tackles, 10 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. But every single time I watch Bama play this season, this dude just popped off this screen. That's what I love especially when I'm going and I'm kind of watching tape on these guys, because obviously I'm not watching the same tape that NFL scouts are watching. I'm mainly just watching game film. So whenever these like first-round talents, especially when they go to big-time schools like Bama, like do they just pop off the screen? Like do you notice them as the common fan? I've noticed Dallas Turner every single time they played. Now, for the Vikings side of things, I think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to take an edge in the first round. You have an uncertainty with the Danielle Hunter. Hopefully, you probably do have that contract situation figured out before the NFL draft, but obviously you never know. And obviously you do lose the Danielle Hunter in free agency or whatever it may be, you're going to have to draft an edge because DJ Wonnum, he had a season-ending injury. I like Patrick Jones, but could he be kind of the focal point of an edge group? Not sure yet. Really good player, but can he be the main guy? I don't know. I think Dallas Turner, he will be a no-doubt hit in the NFL. I'm a big fan of him. Pops off the screen every time I watch him play, and he definitely feels a position in need for the Vikes. Number 2, Cooper DeJean, the cornerback out of Iowa. And there's no doubting it, cornerback is still a huge need for this Vikings team. I like a Caleb Evans. I like Byron Murphy. Are they true cornerback ones by any means? No, not at all. I think they could be great 2s and 3s in this league, but if you allow, or if you say, hey, Byron Murphy, go guard Keenan Allen, which we saw earlier this year, who gave him 200, you are going to have problems. But Cooper DeJean, he actually is from Iowa, 6'1", 207 pounds. This guy's a freak athlete, man. He's incredibly fluid in and out of his breaks. He is incredibly sticky in coverage. Overall, his technique is fantastic. Only question with him, he is an athlete, but can he maintain with NFL wide receiver athletes? Like, that's kind of the thing with him. He's got great technique, which I do think will carry over into the NFL. I'm a fan of him. Can he be a true lockdown, CB1, and would he fit well in Brian Flores' scheme where he's running mainly a lot of man? I am not sure, but he is one of 2 corners I would love for the Vikings to take. Cooper DeJean, great ball player, fills a position in need. Keep your eyes on him as a sneaky first-round pick for the Vikings, but I'm a big fan of him. It's just there are some questions if he will be able to keep up in the NFL. In terms of his technique, form and all that, man, this dude's fantastic. Cooper DeJean, keep your eyes out on him going to the Vikes in the first round. Now we're kicking it back to edge rusher here is the big man out of Florida State, Jared Verse, who was the best player on this Florida State team this past year when they went undefeated and kind of got snubbed out of the college football playoff, but that's another story for another day. Listen, Jared Verse, big old guy, 6'4", 240 pounds. We already talked about earlier kind of why I do think the Vikings could go edge rusher in this year's draft, but he's from Dayton, Ohio. 2023 stats, he had 41 tackles, 9 sacks, and a forced fumble for Florida State. The thing I love about him, I think he's got a lot more boom or bust potential than a guy like Dallas Turner. Whenever I watch this guy, like I feel like I am watching a young Danielle Hunter, play football. He's incredibly athletic. He doesn't have maybe the crazy arsenal of pass rush moves like a Danielle Hunter had, coming out, but he can get developed into one. He only has the attributes to develop into a top edge in this year's class. Only thing about him, man, if we still had Andre Patterson as their defensive line coach, you guys would sign me up instantly for drafting a guy like this. A lot of boom or bust, so it's going to come down to coaching. Obviously, we don't know for sure if Flores will be the DC next season. So would you trust, maybe a first-year coordinator or something, taking a guy like Jared Verse? But overall, I'm a big fan of him. Freak athlete, 6'4", 260. You guys definitely keep your eyes on the Vikings taking him. But in terms of Vikings taking a quarterback, what would you do? Should the Vikings draft a quarterback in the first round? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. I'm not going to answer this. I'm not going to answer this. I really don't know right now. I'm going to have to wait and see how free agency goes. But you guys let me know. Should the Vikings draft a QB in round 1? Y for yes or N for no. We're going back to cornerback here, as I didn't know who to put first, either Nate Wiggins or Cooper DeJean on this list. I went with Cooper, but Nate Wiggins could easily be the choice for the Minnesota Vikings. The big physical corner out of Clemson. He was going up against those ACC wide receivers all year long, and he really held his own, man. He is a hell of a football player. Like I said, he is a big guy. He stands in at 6'2", 185 pounds, out of Atlanta, Georgia. 5-star coming out of high school. He's an absolute dog, man. He had 28 tackles this year, 2 interceptions, 6 PBUs. I think he's got true cornerback 1 potential in the league. But again, he is more of that boom or bust guy, when I think Cooper DeJean is more of whereas maybe his ceiling is not as high as a guy like Nate Wiggins. I would definitely take a chance on Nate Wiggins, man. I think also he's probably a better scheme fit than Cooper and Flores' system. He can get a little more sticky in man-to-man coverage. I love Nate Wiggins' game, and I know what you may be saying. Cornerback out of Clemson. Red flag. I get it. After drafting Andrew Booth, probably any of us are not too thrilled about drafting a cornerback out of Clemson. This dude's different. This dude's a blue-chip player, and I think the Vikings, maybe he doesn't even fall to you at 11. Maybe a team swoops in and takes him ahead, but Nate Wiggins, big fan of him, could be heading to the purple and gold, no doubt. Jer'Zhan Newton, the big fella out of Illinois. This might be my favorite pick if I had to choose it. I think the Vikings definitely need to add more oomph on this football team on both sides of football, interior offensive lineman and defensive lineman, and Jer'Zhan Newton is definitely that. I mean, this is a massive human being. He is a Goliath. He is 6'2", 295 pounds from St. Petersburg, Florida. I think he is going to be kind of that, Linval Joseph type of player in the league. You don't really see many of these guys like that true interior run stuff and D tackles go, high in the NFL draft, but this guy's that good where he could be a top 20 pick. And yeah, maybe it would be a reach for the Vikings to take him at 11th overall, but if you just want to go kind of drafting for need, Jer'Zhan Newton could definitely be the guy. Also, you got that big guy from Texas, Sweat. I'm sleeping on his first name right now, but he could be an option for the Vikings. But Jer'Zhan Newton, I'm a big fan of him. He can also get to the quarterback a little bit. 7.5 sacks. I don't know if that'll translate over, at least what I've been reading about him is his pass rush ability to the NFL, but he is a super good athlete at that size, at 6'2", 295. I would take him, no doubt. I think the Vikings do need to get a little tougher. He's got some dog in his game. He gets up, he talks smack after plays, which I like. But Jer'Zhan Newton, big fan of his game, and he could definitely be a player the Vikings draft. But I just gave you guys 5 non-QBs I think the Vikings could take in this year's draft. You guys just got to give me one. Who do you want the Vikings draft at 11th overall if they stand there and make that pick? As always, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed here to Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those are 5 non-QBs the Vikings could draft. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes.